So you've got the evidence, something tangible that the jury can see, they can look at, and then you've got the human element. And released on Friday were the videos of the interview done by investigators that night of Alec Murdaugh inside a car right next to where the bodies were found. I want to play for folks at home just a portion of that, and then we can talk about how the jury perceives some of Alec's responses to the questioning that night. Let's listen.
I mean, I pulled up and I could see him, and, I knew something was bad. I ran out. I knew it was really bad. My boy over there, I could see it was.
And this is one of the moments, one of the few moments in the 33-minute video that Alec Murdaugh gets upset. But that is a response most people would have. They would be in hysterics. They would be upset. Jonna, I'll start with you on this one. How does the jury perceive what they're seeing, not only in this video as they watched it play out, but his emotional outbursts in court as he listens to some of the evidence?
In my opinion, he comes across as very credible, both when he's having emotion at the defense table and when he was having emotion in this interrogation. And the thing we have to remember is this might be the only time the jury gets to actually hear and see Alec Murdaugh. He might not take the stand. In fact, if I were a betting woman, I'd say right now, he probably won't, because he doesn't have to. So it's very important for the jury to kind of key in on that, assess his credibility as somebody who's genuinely upset that his family just got blown away. And if he's not the culprit, is this a sort of quote unquote normal response? In my opinion, it does come across as somebody who is genuinely heartbroken and perhaps not responsible for these heinous acts.
Tracy, what stood out to you listening to that interview, and maybe more importantly from your background, some of the questioning that he was receiving as they're trying to get information that night?
So I actually do not find him very credible, to be completely honest with you. So sorry to disagree. But when I actually am watching him during the trial, quite frankly, really a lot of what he's doing seems quite forced. He seems annoyed. He seems angry at some points, which I actually think show potential in terms of behaviors, right, that he can have. I think in terms of in the vehicle, when he's being questioned, kind of that up and down, he became very cool, calm, and collected, and then sort of broke down. It's just very surprising to me that his behavior is turned on and off actually quite quickly, and I find that to be a bit suspect.
In the gallery in court, you have seen multiple times Buster Murdaugh, Alec Murdaugh's only surviving son. You've seen both of his brothers in court, his sister. On the possible list of witnesses that could be called, you have several members of Maggie Murdaugh's family. What stands out to you about who's in court, Jonna, and who may be called to the stand as a character witness to try to say Alec Murdaugh is an upstanding citizen, great father, great husband, he didn't do this, and here's why?
I think right now there's a big question as to which side of this Buster Murdaugh is going to fall on. And I am surprised to see him in the courtroom because he is on the witness list. And ordinarily, if you are going to be called as a witness, you are not permitted in a courtroom until after your testimony with good reason. Now, perhaps in South Carolina, they're making some exception, or maybe the defense is allowing it themselves. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe outside of court, Buster has come out and said, I don't want it written anywhere that I am supporting my father, which is odd. Also something the jury should not be privy to. So I guess it's going to be a waiting game as to whether he's actually going to take the stand and what he's going to say.
That's interesting. All right, we're going to leave it there to you both. Thank you, Jonna Spilbor, criminal defense attorney and legal analyst, Tracy Walder, former CIA officer and FBI special agent. Really interesting day 3 as the jury listens to this case. Thank you both, as always. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.